Well, just like that, we've got another field done harvesting soybeans. How about that? Today is Saturday, October 4th, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing in South Dakota, which means that the wind is blowing like crazy. I don't necessarily think we're going to be able to get the drone out today to get any stuff like that, but I do have my 3 GoPros hopefully staying mounted at various places on the combine. We'll move them around as we go through the course of the day. I'm really sorry, it just didn't work out very well this year with everything kind of happening all at once. When I was getting my hay cut this year, at the same point in time, Dad was getting the combine itself ready to go to get started with soybean harvest. And actually, the day that I got my hay raked, that was last Saturday. And it was windy that day too, if you remember. And the next day, it got baled up. And then the day after they baled it, I got my soybean field harvested already too. And this whole week has been pretty decent weather as far as harvesting is concerned. And we've got a lot of ground covered. We are down to our very last soybean field. It also happens to be our biggest. So that might take us the rest of the day, probably a good chunk of tomorrow. And I know that one of the local co-ops has a test strip out there for soybean cyst nematode, and I'm assuming that they're going to want to be out to help harvest that as well, so they can get the data off of that they need. And I'm assuming that that means that the tail end of our harvest season is going to get pushed into Monday. But again, the weather for the next week looks honestly really good. So I've got no worries about getting that done on Monday either. Once we have soybeans all done on Monday, we'll get the soybean header all cleaned up. We'll go through, get the corn head hooked up to the combine, make any adjustments that we need to do there, any small repairs that the combine needs to have done. I know that the corn head, I need to put new seals on one of the row units. That shouldn't be that big of a task to do, but it's just one of those things that needs to get done before we get started. I think that's about it as far as an update's concerned. We are going down the road between the field we just got done on, which is what we call Gills, and now we're going to go to Joyce's. Like I said, that's our biggest field. I want to say that Joyce's has someplace, I should have looked this up before I got started, but I want to say it's right around 100 acres of soybeans up there as well. So we're going down the road, and I've got my dad in the grain cart right in front of me. He's running blocker, and I don't have anybody following me, but I can use the mirrors and see behind me a lot better than he can with the grain cart. So I'll turn you guys back on when you get there, and we'll talk through how we're going to open that field up, a little bit of story behind that field, and then we'll get started harvesting, I think. We'll talk to you guys in a little bit. end rows on the side of the field we're going to start with. So there is all the east end rows back behind me here. I'm heading west currently. And that comes up to a fence line. And that fence line kind of keeps wrapping around back to the north, and then eventually back to the west, and then all the way back around to the south. I've got all those end rows taken care of. And now we're going to get started on combining the main part of the field here. So the reason we're starting here on the north end is I just looked at the weather just before I scheduled broke into our scheduled B-roll footage here. But currently it is 88 degrees and a sustained south wind of 30 miles an hour outside. And that is really unusual for this time of year. So the reason we're going to start on the north side of the farm and work our way to the south is in case there is a fire that happens. We're not going to catch the rest of the standing soybeans on fire. That will keep going to the north. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. We did check all of our fire extinguishers this morning and make sure that everything was looking correct before we got going. Everything was full, everything was charged. So we shouldn't have any issues with that. It is, like I said, October 4th, and the SDSU Jackrabbits are playing here in about 15 minutes or so. So I'll have to turn the radio on here shortly and hear that. And that kind of reminds me of a story of the guy that owns this piece of ground now, actually. He said that he remembers when he was a little kid and my Grandpa Louie was still farming, that they could hear Grandpa Louie's Minnesota Twins baseball playing on the radio from about 3/4 of a mile away when he was out working in the fields back, like I said, a long time ago. But I just thought that was kind of funny. So we'll get that scheduled here pretty quick. Those of you guys who are watching closely will probably notice that there's still a fair amount of green in this field. The answer for that is these are an NK 2.1, which is a pretty late maturity group soybeans for this latitude, this far north. And they were also planted on May 8th. I just saw on my screen up here. And actually, I should switch this back to yield now that I've got my end rows all done. It's my little cheat sheet. I like to come back up here and see how it was planted so I have an idea of how I want to get the end rows knocked out. But anyway, we are moving right along. The yield's looking pretty darn good. Moisture is 8.7, which is drier than we'd hoped. And again, those green stems, it'd be nice if we could wait, because it would go through the machine easier that way, but we just don't have time with those beans already being as dry as they are. So right now I've got Papa Tom, he's in the grain cart. We'll get started with more B-roll here, unloading on the go with him in a little bit, and I'll pop back in routinely to let you know how the Twins are doing, or not the Twins. The Twins are, they're probably not playing today. I doubt they made the playoffs, but I'll let you know how the Jacks play. How's that sound? Talk to you guys in a little bit. done, 33.2. We saved the best for last apparently, because this is the best field of soybeans we've been in all year. And like I said, that means we have roughly 66 or so acres left, and hopefully they maintain the yields that we're seeing. Jackrabbits currently behind. They just finished up halftime. They're going into the third quarter kickoff right now. So Youngstown State finally seems to have something for the Jackrabbits. To get back to combining here, the gentleman neighbor that owns the grain bin that we're storing these beans in, he's a little bit of an older guy, and we'll probably not drive up to his yard and bother him the rest of the evening. We have one of the trucks filled up, the red truck. When that gets filled up, we're going to go back and get the blue truck, bring that out to the field, fill that truck up, and we'll probably call her good for the night, which is fine because I'm not out of diesel, but I'm running a little on the low side, so I didn't want to run too late anyway this evening. So it should work out. We'll just have to make sure to fill it up with fuel before we come back out in the morning, and we'll keep working on this field then. Next time you see me, I'll be in the yard. Talk to you in a little while. And I apologize for not getting back to you guys last night like I told you I would. It was just a long day. Everybody's ready for it to be over. So we got in the house and just kind of hung out and went to bed. Decent time. Got up on Sunday morning and we're out rolling again now, as you can see in this video. And the awesome thing is we're going to get done with soybeans today. I didn't know that was going to happen on Saturday when I was talking to you, but it looks like it's going to become a reality. So, here we go. here we are. It is the last 12 rows of harvest season here, for soybeans at least. And you'll notice that I'm in the grain cart today. I had all day yesterday in the combine, and I figured I had to share the fun of that a little bit. So today, Dad is running the combine. I was running the grain cart and trucks when the trucks were getting full. And when I wasn't in the field, there was nobody in the grain cart, so Dad just had to stop at the end of the road, or at the end of the row here, and unload the combine as it was sitting still. It does kind of suck. We lose a lot of efficiency doing it like that. It is what it is. We still got done this weekend. It's Sunday afternoon. Jacks won last night. We're going to win here at about 100 yards when we're done with this last pass. And then we're going to get everything back to the farm, and we're going to be done for the night. Now, I did want to say I'm sorry. I didn't do a really good job getting a lot of soybean footage out to everybody on YouTube, simply because this harvest season, a lot of things kind of got balled together. A later than normal hay harvest with the weather that we had right after Labor Day. Mom and Dad went down to New Orleans in the middle of September, and again, it's nobody's fault. I'm glad that everybody got everything done that we needed to, but it was just busy. So I'm hoping that I can do a better job when it comes to corn harvest. And if I'm being honest with you, corn harvest is a lot more fun anyway, a lot more exciting. So I will talk to you guys when we're getting ready to go for corn, and then again, of course, when we're actually on the field harvesting corn. So talk to you guys then. Have a good one.